Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we talk about the really important issue of best practices around administering emergency rental assistance program. I'm Denise Winfrey from Will County, which is in northern Illinois. I'm happy to be your moderator today. I'm also the first vice president of NACo. Even before the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, many renters already struggle with housing affordability, and some of them even with accessibility. The Joint Center on Housing Studies reported that in 2018, nearly half of all renters were cost burdened, which means that they were paying more than 30% of their income in rent, with higher numbers for lower income and minority renters. And this pandemic has made it even harder for those renters to keep up. If you think about people in the service industry, for instance, there was no opportunity to work during the shutdown, so very often, both people in the household were without a reliable income. According to the Census Bureau, renters have been more likely to lose employment income than homeowners, further worsening the already precarious situation. Millions of renters report being behind on their rent, feeling like they're not going to be able to make next month's rent, and facing the likelihood of leaving their housing due to eviction. And of course, the other side of that coin is landlords. And I'm not speaking of big industrial renting complexes, but mom and pop kind of operations where they have a 2-unit, 4 or 6 unit, and they're dependent on the rental income as a mainstay of their own financial stability. So now they're faced with the challenge of, while they may be able to cover the mortgage, how do they cover all the other responsibilities that go with owning? So impact on both sides of the coin, renters being obviously in a more precarious situation. In response to the worsening condition for renters, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, or ERA for short, was created in the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021 and signed into law in December of 2020. Since its inception, the ERA has directed over $40 billion, that's $1 billion, to counties, states, and other grantees to help cover the unmet rent and utility expenses of low-income households affected by the economic consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic. Counties are acutely aware of the need for housing and rental assistance and share the goals of this program and its successful implementation. But the scope and timeliness of this problem demands is not without its challenges. Many counties and other grantees who administer ERA funds do not have experience in establishing such a robust program for ERA in such a short window of time. If you think about when we got the money, the need to get it out right away, the demands of people being without housing or soon being without housing, all of a sudden, it's very hard for counties to manage all that. So today we're going to have people on who have managed those difficulties and have gotten the money out to the people who are in need. Counties stand ready to continue working with our intergovernmental partners to ensure the shared goal of providing relief to the millions of people who struggle to make their monthly rent payments and face evictions if it comes to fruition. Shortly, we will hear from ERA administrators from Mecklenburg County in North Carolina, Milwaukee County in Wisconsin, New Hanover County in North Carolina, and my own county, Will, in northern Illinois. They are among the leading top 10 counties in the country in administering their ERA funding. These counties have done a fantastic job of funding creative and effective ways to ensure their program success. They will each take a turn in giving you a 10-minute overview of their programs and will provide strategies on a number of items that made them successful, including partnership with local nonprofits, employing data analytics, utilizing self-attestation in determining applicant eligibility, and much more. Before we get started, though, I want to make sure that we take care of some housekeeping issues. The webinar is being recorded and is going to be available on the NACo website to view later or to share with colleagues who may not be able to attend. Just another one of your NACo benefits. There will also be a question and answer period at the end. So we encourage you to put your questions in the chat or the Q&A section so that we can get them, collect them, and be able to save them for later. In case we're not able to get to you today with the answer, we'll be able to respond to you later. And they will also put those questions and the answers on the website so that all of our members can enjoy that resource. You'll be able to either post them in the Q&A box or during the appropriate time, raise your hand. And if we finish the questions in the chat box, we'll begin to acknowledge hands. But again, we may not be able to get to all of that. So please use our question and answer box so that we can share your question with everyone. Now, we'll hear shortly from Lashonda McCorkle Hart, who serves as the program manager for the Affordable Housing Initiative in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina. Ms. Hart will provide us with an overview of the Emergency Rental Assistance Program in Mecklenburg County, where they have already spent over 88% of their total ERA 1 of allocation, and discuss some of the measures they took to ensure that its successful implementation. Ms. Hart.
Thank you so much, Honorable Winfrey. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Lashonda Hart, Program Manager for Mecklenburg County Affordable Housing Initiatives. One of my primary responsibilities at this time relative to the pandemic is ensuring our community and agency partners are aligned with helping our residents. As you know, Mecklenburg County is second most populous county in North Carolina behind Wake County. According to the most recent data from the 2019 US Census, there are over 1.1 million people who call Mecklenburg County home. Mecklenburg County is the 40th largest county in the nation. Black residents make up 30% of the population, 51% of whites, 12% of Hispanic, and a wide variety of populations, including more Asian residents than 10 years ago. 10.3% of the population are living in poverty, compared to 14.3% for North Carolina and 12.3% nationally. During the wake of the pandemic, our residents were adversely impacted, and our main goal and objective as a health and human service agency was to ensure that the funding we received from Treasury was dispersed in our community quickly and effectively. Our county manager, Dina Diorio, quickly stood up a team that included staff from the manager's office, finance, and procurement to identify the best way our residents could get their rent and utilities paid. This team was established when we received our allocation of CARES funding. We established a collaboration with Dream Key Partners, formerly Charlotte Mecklenburg Housing Partnership, as the agency to manage our CARES funding, to pay rent and utilities, and most recently, our Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Dream Key Partners are known for their efforts to create and develop housing in this region. During the pandemic, they pivoted and became an integral partner to administer emergency rental assistance. We received 6.7 from Treasury late April 2021, and Dream Key Partners paid over 1,000 residents past due rent and utilities in an 8-week period. This was a tremendous accomplishment for our county. Our ERA2 funding was received mid-August of this year to assist our towns and unincorporated areas. To date, we have approved 103 applications. The state ERA1 funds allocated for Treasury in the amount of $29 million were only provided on a per county basis. We will disperse these funds throughout the county to include the city of Charlotte with paying rents and utilities. For Dream Key Partners ERA1 spending limits, the administrative cap provided ample funds to make their staffing and technology adjustments with the 10% contracted fee. For the ERA2 and state ERA1 administrative caps, they will not have the ability to make the same adjustments. However, Mecklenburg County has created a plan that will allow for Dream Key to continue doing the great services that they are doing, but to also add additional members to the team dedicated to housing stability services. This will allow their ability to expand and reach more individuals in need of assistance. Our success lies with community partners such as Dream Key, Crisis Assistance Ministry, Legal Aid of North Carolina, Charlotte Center for Legal Advocacy for our immigrant population, Mecklenburg County Courts, and Charlotte Mecklenburg Dispute Resolution Program, among other partners. In closing, I would like to say, for our experience in Mecklenburg County, I recommend having an internal working group with the respective department representation to ensure all areas of the program are developed and coordinated. This ensures the process can be carried out successfully with minimal gaps. Without this proper planning, a process to implement and revisiting the process for effectiveness could possibly slow down the efforts with the community and agency collaborations. Adding new partnerships and working with existing partners will allow for our community to be served. Lastly, let's not forget transparency and technology, which is essential for efficiency with transactions for payment, various reports, and tracking of outcomes. I want to thank NACo for this opportunity to present today, and I look forward to answering any questions during our panel discussion. Thank you again, Honorable Winfrey.
Thank you, Ms. Hart, for that insight into Mecklenburg County. Our next set of speakers come to us from Milwaukee County in Wisconsin. We have Maricela Gaona, who serves as an eviction prevention specialist within Milwaukee County's Housing Division, and Mr. James Matthew, who serves as the Housing Administrator of Milwaukee County's Housing Division. Ms. Gaona, Mr. Matthew.
Thank you, Honorable Winfrey. So I will start again. My name is Jim Matthew. I'm the administrator of the Milwaukee County Housing Division. So I'm just going to speak briefly about our division and why I think we're able to get off to a quick start. So our housing division is a little bit unique because we are embedded within the Department of Health and Human Services. So within our housing division is our Milwaukee County Housing Authority. Our division also administers all of the federal CDBG and home funds. All of our homelessness initiatives, case management, street outreach are all under one roof. And we're using the lens of social determinants of health within a Department of Health and Human Services to do this work. So we've been doing programs like this for quite a long time. So it was easy for us to get up and running. We had similar programs through the CARES Act. And one of the things that would certainly be recommended, even though we think we do a really good job administering these programs, one of the things that county governments don't necessarily do very well is to be very nimble and cut checks very quickly. So we certainly leaned on our nonprofit partner. We have had many years worth of arrangements of fiscal agent contracts and different purchase of service contracts with all of our nonprofit vendors. These vendors do everything from homelessness services to energy assistance. So we're using the same vendors that we had previously used, and we're able to get things up and running quite quickly. The other thing that we did in line with this is using ARPA funds and private United Way funds. We started Right to Counsel at virtually the same time that we were kicking off this program. So all tenants now in Milwaukee County have the right to legal counsel going through evictions. All of our court partners are well aware of this program, so we're able to catch those individuals. As far as other background from Milwaukee County, our population is around 950,000 or so, 64% white, 27% African American. Really, in short, this is kind of part of our mission, and we've been running programs very, very similar to this. Just did not think we had the ability to process this many checks in that quick of a time period. But again, we've been doing work for years, contracting with nonprofit vendors, and that certainly was the best decision for us to go in that direction. So that was just some brief background about our Milwaukee County Housing Division. I'm going to turn it over to Maricela Gaona to go over some specific successes of the program. So Maricela, go ahead.
Hey, everyone. Good afternoon. Milwaukee County received a total of 10.6 million of ERA1 allocations. We have dispersed 100% of those funds from March up to July. As of July, we received 12.6 million from the state ERA1 funds that have actually been spent 100% as well from July to September. We just received an additional 20 million from the state in ERA1, and we are expected to spend these funds by the end of this month. We currently have about 1,727 individuals in queue that have actually been approved and are now in the payment process. As of September 14, we've distributed approximately 19 to 20 million and assisted approximately 4,245 unique households. The average payment per household has been approximately about 4,617. There's currently, we're receiving anywhere from an average of 300 applications a week, with currently 4,700 applications under review currently right now. The great news is that the state has committed to providing Milwaukee County with additional funding that's going to allow us to take us through the remaining of September of 2022 to be able to serve our community and all those individuals in the queue. I believe Milwaukee County, we've had a lot of unique reasons as to why our program has been successful. One of the reasons has been our great partnerships with our two nonprofits organization. We've had with community advocates in Hope House. The ability and dispersal of the emergency rental assistance in Milwaukee was also in sync with the timely development and the launch of what's called the Milwaukee Rental Housing Resource Center, which is a virtual and physical clearinghouse of information and a referral network. And this allows the community to connect to rental assistance, legal aid, mediation services, and homeless prevention resources. So I believe our partnership within the Rental Housing Resource Center has been great in allowing us to be able to receive referrals or applications from their triage team. The other things that has made us successful has been working in collaboration with the court systems. We do receive weekly listings of eviction filings that have been submitted on a weekly basis. We're able to check our applications in queue against those eviction filings to assess any the statuses and help with prioritizing those specific eviction cases to prevent any pending eviction. In addition, our chief judge of Milwaukee County has convened a group of eviction division stakeholders that we meet bi-weekly. It's been bi-weekly meetings since throughout the whole 2021. Many of these regular attendees are the stakeholders in the Milwaukee Rental Housing Resource Center, and some of the partners within the Rental Housing Resource Center are legal aid, legal action. We also have our partners with the Apartment Association of Southeastern Wisconsin that has also played a huge role in allowing us to be able to make this program successful. We've also worked together to reach out to landlords who are frequent filers of eviction to be able to ensure them and notify them of the assistance and the availability of this program. We recently launched a campaign to promote the availability of rent assistance in August 2020 with bus ads, billboards, and radio marketing. I believe also the recent approval of the self-attestation has really also made our program very successful. We started utilizing self-attestation in August, and that has really allowed us to be able to push through those pending applications for individuals who have been struggling with providing that COVID-19 verification of financial hardship. Some of the challenges and barriers that we've experienced have been just being able to keep up with the high demand of the application flow, and I'm working with those incomplete applications that continue to present some delays. I believe the three biggest examples of why we've been so successful, one has been our great partnership with our nonprofit organizations and our constant communication. We meet on a weekly basis with our partners. They provide us with weekly reports of how much spending has been taking place, how many applications are pending, approved, or in queue. I believe that's been a great success. The collaboration with our court system and our rental housing resource center providers has also made our program successful, and the recent passing of the right to counsel. The use of our online application process, our process, it's through a online portal. It's easy 6 steps. The individual is able to go online and create a profile. It's a very easy process. They're able to create a unique passcode, a unique login, and they're able to go back and verify their status on the application, whether their application is pending, if it's under case management review. Once the application is completed and submitted, the landlord automatically receives a notification notifying them that their tenant has applied for services. And I believe that's a great tool to allow the landlords to be aware that their tenant is seeking the help that they need, and just to prevent from a future eviction. So once the landlord receives verification of the approval, they're able to submit and confirm the total amounts of arrears. This helps facilitate and the process of the application move a little faster. If there's any pending documentation, the housing advocate will contact the individual for review to be able to reach out and request any missing application. The final step is the tenant receives a decision notice and payment is made. Anything else you'd like to add, Jim?
Oh, Marcel, you covered all the specifics. Thank you very much.
Hey, so thank you both for that insight into what's going on in Milwaukee County. A lot for us to learn from all of our speakers. Next up, we have our 2 guests are from New Hanover County, also in North Carolina. We have the Honorable Ron Zappel, who is a county commissioner, and we have Ms. Tanya Jackson, who is the Director of Social Services at New Hanover County's Department of Health and Human Services. Commissioner Zappel, Ms. Jackson.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introduction, Commissioner Winfrey. For those of you who don't know, New Hanover County is in the southeast North Carolina corner of North Carolina. We're the 2nd smallest county in the state. We only have 199 dry square miles, if you can imagine that. But we're also the 3rd most densely populated county in the state of North Carolina. And we also live in one of the fastest growing regions in the entire United States. So if you can imagine, we have a very small space with a lot of people packed into it, and we're growing by leaps and bounds. So issues with housing, affordability, and certainly a rental assistance are very key, only heightened by the pandemic. Our ERA program, Emergency Rental Assistance Program, came to us through the NC Pro, which is a North Carolina Pandemic Recovery Office. The state of North Carolina received $546.6 million to spend statewide, and New Hanover County received $28 million as their allocation. As of the last accounting, and Tanya could correct me with this, but it's I believe we spent $9 million that has gone out over the last 5.5 months that we've been in on this. We started our program on March 28th. And that has benefited at this point to 2,248 families. It is certainly needed. I know we have a lot more to go. And I think to sum it up, and then I'll toss it over to Tanya to give you some more specifics. But the key to our success has been communication. And our Department of Social Services, of which Tanya is the director, has done a fantastic job of reaching out to landlords, certainly our customers, our citizenry, but also by using the court system and our community partners, our other nonprofits. That really seems to be what has made the difference in the success of our program so far. So Tanya, take it away.
Thank you, Commissioner Zappel. Thank y'all for having us here today to talk about our program. We are extremely excited and proud of the road that we've been on. We did recognize early on that we had issues. We know that we are a coastal community. So when the pandemic hit, we had a lot of people that lost jobs because of our tourism rate going down. And so when we received our COVID funds, we stood up a rental assistance program along with the child care assistance program. So we had a little bit of basis, and that was something that we derived up with our county manager's support. And we did that program grassroots up. So it was just, we started out, we figured it out, and we worked through it. Much smaller part of money, but we also were, but it was able to give us some basis to start on. When we realized that we were going to receive the ERAP funds, we were excited to know that because there was still a great need in our community to have this type of rental assistance support. We developed a business model that included only online, telephone, or mailing applications. We did not do face-to-face applications with this program, mostly because due to the pandemic, we didn't want to have the physical contact of the applications going on. We do rent, utilities, and internet. We do rental arrears, we do post-rent, and we also do rental deposits to assist with housing stability. We use Salesforce as our applicant portal, and we did not have to purchase that product when we started this program because we already owned the product. We just needed to make some adjustments to it and be able to adapt it to our needs for this program. We hired contracted staff to actually administer the program, but the program is administered within the Health and Human Services building, which helped with administrative costs because the overhead costs of contracting it out or your facility, telephones, all of that is county supported. We have been able to go through the process with the program fairly seamlessly. Now, in the beginning, we started on March the 28th, and in the beginning, there was a lot of adjustments to processes and protocols. Also with this program, as I'm sure all of y'all know, trying to develop your policy because we didn't have a lot of direction from the Treasury Department, and that direction was actually changing on a daily basis. So as we were developing and writing the policy was changing from day to day and just keeping up with those changes. We took advantage of partnerships and we did a lot of outreach. We have inside of New Hanover County an Office of Diversity, and we have manned up the New Hanover County Poverty Task Force. So we worked really close with the Poverty Task Force in order to do our outreach and get the information out into the community. We worked with our Public Housing Authority, and we also have some community partners here in New Hanover County, our Help Hub, Good Shepherd, Salvation Army, and other smaller entities. They allowed us, they set up in the side of their offices computers so that when customers came in, they would have a computer there and somebody to help them to access the online application. We did outreach on all of our social media platforms. We utilize Facebook, Twitter, whatever we can in order to do our outreach. We work with local TV, radio, and our county TV stations to get the information out. We sent letters to all of our major property management companies and letters to our major apartment complexes. We also have a presence in our eviction court when staffing is available. We may not be at every eviction court, but we try really hard to be at as many of them as possible. When it's time for evictions court to take place, we place a case manager there. That case manager actually serves as a go-between between the landlord and the tenant in order to make sure that we keep a line of communication open. We do a lot of outreach to our landlords in the area also. Once we get one landlord in place, or we can get somebody brings the landlord forth, if it's a new one, we try to make it our business to reach out to that landlord again in some kind of way to let them know if you have other properties or you're experiencing other situations that we're here to help. And we work really hard with our applicants because we find that sometimes they experience difficulties in trying to bridge that communication and also trying to get the necessary verifications that they need. We do self-attestation, and we have done it since day one, and I think that has helped out in some of our ability to get the funds out quicker. But we don't use self-attestation until we have exhausted all means. We actually contract and employ 10 different case managers. We employ a project manager also, and we also employ a fiscal technician to help with expediting the payments. With the self-attestation, like I say, we make sure that we exhaust all of our means before we use it, but we've had it in place since day one, and if we need to use it, we do. We also do direct payment to the tenant in the event that we could not get the landlord to cooperate. But I do want to say in New Hanover County that we just looked at our stats today, and we feel like we're right at around 97% of landlord participation with any application that we went through. But in the whole thing, I say that in order to make your program successful, you need to make sure that your program stays customer centric. You want to really focus on the applicant and doing whatever you need to do to assist them to be able to access the funds. Also in New Hanover County, we are very fortunate. We have a very strong internal technology capacity, a very strong IT department who is able to meet our needs with our technology, which is so important, trying to make sure that we stay data focused and that we can gather the information that we need to measure the progress of the program, gather the information that we need to meet the reporting requirements of the state and of NC Pro. There is one reporting requirement that we have with the Treasury Department. We've actually exhausted all of our ERA-1 funds from the Treasury Department. We are now working on our ERA-1 funds from the NC Pro from our state allocation, and that is a different set of reporting requirements. So that internal capacity is going to be very important, or that technology capacity, whether it's internal or external, is going to be very important to be successful. And you have to really, really stay customer centric in this program. If there's any other questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Tanya, thank you so much. I think everybody here on this call can understand why New Hanover County has been successful. That was a fantastic rundown of what we've been doing with our funds. I just like to reemphasize one key point. That's about the internet access and the work we're doing there. I know at the commission level, we've also taken about $5.5 million of our ARP money, which I know you all have as well in your counties. That's the American Rescue Plan money. And we're using that to hook up approximately 8,000 people or homes that we identified, in our county that could not or had not prior to this, gotten internet. But as we can all know now, through everything from education, remote learning to any kind of business, you simply can't exist as a citizen in our community without internet. So that's one emphasis that is, through all these programs working together, that we're using these monies from the different pots to try and identify and to help solve some of those problems. And with that, Commissioner Winfrey, I'll toss it back to you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Zappel and Ms. Jackson. We've hit on some key points of how a program can be successful. We're going to move now to our last panelist, and that's from my own home county, Will County, Martha Soika, who is, I'll get your correct title here, Martha, is the administrator for the Community Development Division of Will County's Land Use Department. Martha?
Thank you, Board Member Winfrey. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. As Board Member Winfrey mentioned, I'm Community Development Administrator for the Land Use Department. Will County is an entitlement community for HUD, CDBG, ESG, and home dollars. So we administer those dollars through this division. We also administer CDBG dollars for the village of Bolingbrook in Will County and home dollars for the city of Joliet. Will County is one of 7 counties in the Chicago metropolitan region. As of the 2020 census, our population is just around 700,000 residents, making us the 4th largest, our most populous county in Illinois. Our demographics are 64% white, 17% Hispanic, 11% African-American, and 5% Asian. We have 240,000 households, and 19% of those households are renters. and that compares to 36% renter occupied households regionally. NACo data on the number of cost burden households for Will County follows suit with national trends, and that's at 48.5% of our renters are paying more than 30% of their income on housing costs. So as an indicator of housing instability, that's quite a high number. Our ERA dollars, our first allocation was just over 20 million. When we received that announcement, we did already have rental assistance and utility assistance programs and available in the community through other funding sources, CDBG, CSBG, it's an alphabet soup of acronyms. So we've got FEMA dollars, LIHEAP dollars that were already available in the community. So just listening to our nonprofits or our community-based organizations, we knew that they didn't necessarily have the capacity to take on an additional 20 million to be able to get that out the door effectively, because they were having hardships or challenges getting out dollars with those extra allocations that came through the other funding sources. So knowing that they were kind of at capacity, we looked at other options. Our state agency, the Illinois Department of Housing or Illinois Housing Development Authority, IDA, reached out to all the counties that were going to get county allocations, asking if we wanted to partner. And then we also had some private companies reach out asking if we wanted to have a rental assistance program, to stand up a rental assistance program with their assistance. In evaluating all of those options, we ultimately decided to partner with our state agency. And that was mainly because, as some of the panelists today mentioned, it's a matter of infrastructure and having the technology in place to handle that amount or that volume. And the state already had a program last year in 2020. It's a rental assistance program. So they had the technology set up and all of those pieces like contracts with DocuSign all ready to go. And they also had some lessons learned from last year, which was, they can build upon. And they provided data on Will County for what they were able to do last year. And they were able to provide 7 million in assistance when they had their state program. So we knew that at least some of our landlords and our renters were already familiar with their process and what it takes to apply through them, that it would be good to partner with that entity. It was kind of a situation that it's already in place. And then they also offered assistance with marketing. And then they were able to provide frequently asked questions in 7 other languages. So these are all things that they've already had in place and an easy way to kind of plug into that system. 2 things that I'll highlight that were really important in terms of the program design, and we were part of those discussions up until launch day. And I would say that the way we structured the design was to offer the applications in 2 cycles. The first cycle was landlord-led applications, and then the second cycle was tenant-led applications. And the thinking there was that landlords were the ones that were most impacted in terms of not having rent to pay their own mortgages on their buildings. So the pent-up demand was the greatest for the landlords at this time. What we heard from our nonprofit partners is that some of the tenants had, even though they were behind on rent, that eviction moratorium and the fact that it kept getting extended gave a little bit of a false security that they don't necessarily have to apply. So there wasn't much of an urgency. So our nonprofits would often get an application and then the tenant would never come back to complete it. So the strategy to go start with the landlords, I think, really paid off because we did get a lot of applications right off at initiation. The other piece that I would like to highlight is the fact that our state agency offered to partner or to fund community-based organizations within our county. So they put out an RFP and we had 4 agencies apply and were awarded what they called housing stabilization services. So they became local partners in this process to assist households that maybe had difficulty doing online or just didn't understand how to navigate the process. So we always had a local footprint for this program, even though the state was administering. And I think that helped because it kept it a local program, even though it was all online and very technical the technology was very advanced, I guess, in that regard. So in partnering with the state agency, we also did retain a portion of our admin and utilized the majority of those funds for local marketing and communication. So we branded that whole program just to be very Will County centric, because we knew that if we did a good job at marketing, we might actually get more money because the state's allocation would also be eligible for Will County residents. And we utilized a firm that was currently doing our COVID vaccination outreach. So again, the opportunity to just partner or plug into a system that was already doing things really was to our advantage. With regard to the outreach and marketing that the county did for the program, I'll highlight two things there that I think were very effective. We created a local housing assistance landing page. It's willcountyillinois.org. And we directed all of our communication and all of our outreach to that website, including a QR code. And we launched that website prior to the assistance being available. So it was kind of coming soon. We collected over 2,000 landlord contacts using that website, because we added a section in there saying, hey, you know, this assistance is coming to you landlords. If you're interested, please put your information in and we'll follow up once it's open. And then once the ERA application cycle was open, our funded partners that were local had some, you know, that had CDBG dollars or other dollars were directed to send all of the requests to the IDA portal or the state agency portal. And then when that application cycle closed, the website was updated to direct all of the requests to go to the local assistance that was available. So having that website to be able to pivot the communication very quickly, because things changed so quickly, was a benefit. And then we never had a gap in assistance. There was always something available. If you didn't catch, you know, the application portal at the first time, there's always assistance available elsewhere. The other thing I'd highlight with our communications and marketing is we use that multimedia strategy. And we heard that from some of our panelists. And we started with the postcard campaign using addresses that were provided by our tax assessor's office for potential landlords. Again, it was this, hey, coming soon, check out this website and get them kind of prepped. We gave them an indication of what type of documentation would be required so they can start collecting that for their renters. And once the portal was launched, you know, I guess they had their preparatory work done ahead of time. We used, like as I mentioned, QR codes, paid social media ads, radio, videos created to post on social media with our partners. We've had Spanish Community Center, Will County Center for Community Concerns, South Suburban Housing Center, and Holston Human Capital Development, all funded through the state to be our local footprint for this program. In terms of outreach to those that might need it the most, we utilized our CDBG funded partners to share that information through their networks. And staff here distributed flyers and brochures to all the network of food pantries that we work with, knowing that if people are going to get assistance for food, there's likely other needs that they have. So having that information readily available to pass out as other assistance was being passed out was really useful. We also worked with our health department and our workforce services department to get flyers and information and posters out at sites that they were doing outreach at, including our mass vaccination sites. So to summarize, I'd say for our best practices, or what could be a best practice, or what made things kind of work smoothly here in Will County, plugging into a process that already had the basic infrastructure in place, so that we're not started. We would have lost a lot of time if we had to start all of that on our own, and we didn't have it within our nonprofits locally. Was a benefit. Starting with the landlords for applications, I think was really successful. 80% of our obligated funds were from the landlord-led applications, and that was about 2,600 applications. We have an additional 4,600 applications that were tenant-led applications that are in review. So the need is definitely great, and the dollars will go out the door. The other thing would be having the local community-based organizations on board to assist, here and to have that local footprint. So you're not putting the entire burden on them, so, you know, from start to application, but at least having someone there to guide tenants through was useful. And then lastly, I would say focusing, you know, our county efforts in the marketing and outreach was helpful. And then utilizing our own departments that traditionally work with low-income populations, like our CDBG programs or our health department MAP program that looks at social determinants of health, or workforce services, using those networks because that's what they do even prior to COVID, really paid off. So yeah, I'd be happy to answer questions once we get to that point, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Martha. And I'll just tag on to Martha because my district happens to be one of the ones that was very heavily affected by the loss of rental income, both on the landlord side and for the tenant side. And the flyers in the food pantry boxes was extremely helpful. And as a county commissioner, got a lot of the phone calls from landlords saying, hey, how do I get my money? I got these houses or these units and people aren't able to pay. I can't put them out. Now I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. So a lot of concern and a lot of people taking advantage of the postcards, being able to get connected, put their own application in as landlords. And then for the renters, finding that wherever they went to get other help, they were able to get help about rental assistance. So big ups for that. Thank you all for the work today and for the work you've done in your counties. We're going to go to the question and answer section, but I want to remind our listeners that we need you to put your questions in the Q&A section. That way we can share them not only live, but if in case we don't get to your question, they'll be on our website. If you go to NACo.org resource, you'll be able to look at all the questions from today, as well as being able to hear this recording. So we'll start with the first question in the Q&A section, and it'll go to all of the panelists in the order that you spoke earlier. So the first question is, how many staff do you have reviewing the applications, or are the NGOs doing all of that? And we'll start at the top of the order. Ms. Hart. And
All
you're
right,
on
thank you
mute.
so much. Yes, I sure was. Thank you so much. With Dream Key Partners being our contractor, they have a total of 25 staff that are reviewing and processing the applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Next panelist.
Hi, for Milwaukee County with our partners with community advocates. They have approximately a total of about 35 employees, but I would say reviewing the application, I would say that's approximately anywhere from 15 to 20 individuals.
Thank you.
Tanya, I'll defer to you and your expertise.
So in New Hanover County, we have a contracted team of 10 case managers reviewing the applications, but we also have a internal team, our family support team, that consists of another 8 analysts who we actually utilize when we need to, if we find that we're getting ourselves into a backlog, too much of a backlog. So anywhere from 10 to 18 case managers are on this project at any given time.
Thank you. Next, Martha.
And then for Will County, well, with the state administering our program, they have multiple programs that they're currently working on. And last I heard, I think they contracted out 2,500 employees for review of these various programs.
Thank you. Next is for counties working with residents who have limited language abilities, and that may be foreign language or poor use of the language. How did you manage to expedite those applications? We'll start with Lashonda.
All right, thank you for that question, anonymous attendee. I will say that in my introduction, we utilize and work very well with our community partners. And so our Charlotte Center for Legal Advocacy, they work with our immigrant population and they're well known. And what that agency partner will do is connect with Dream Key Partners, as well as Dream Key Partners having some Spanish speaking individuals as well. So we work together in a partnership to ensure that is done. Now, With Dream Key Partners, they have an online portal that is Ramp CLT, and most of those who are interested in applying will go to that website. However, there is not too much of a barrier with ensuring that those who have limited language abilities, that their information is not able to be processed. We've been successful in that space. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, for Milwaukee County, we do have a very nice population of Spanish speaking in our community. So our partners at Community Advocates and Hope House do have bilingual staff that's able to prioritize those Spanish speaking cases and move forward with those.
Thank you.
I know in New Hanover County, we have a Hispanic population as well, but again, Tanya, you're dealing with this every day, so please let us know.
So in New Hanover County, we are very populous in the Spanish speaking community also. So our online portal is automatically already in English and in Spanish. We employ bilingual staff to help with the processing of the applications. And in addition, we use Language Line for any communications that does not fall in those that may be outside of that.
Thank you. And then Martha?
And for Will County, one of our funded local partners was Spanish Community Center. So any applications that needed assistance with that would be directed there. And then IDA also had a call center that would take calls in multiple languages. So if there was an encounter with someone that had a different language barrier, that would be the route.
Thank you. And we've spoken to it from the sense of speaking another language, but I wonder if there is an issue for people who have a language disability, for instance, people who are deaf or who have trouble speaking. Was that an experience that any of you had?
To respond to that, that is not anything that has been brought to our attention. However, in us reviewing our processes and talking to our agency partners, if we find that there is a challenge there, we have resources in place to ensure that we can accommodate those. Thank you.
Thank you. For Wisconsin?
Yeah, also same here. We haven't experienced any of those challenges, but if they that was to arise, we would definitely look for ways to serve the community with those accommodations needed.
Okay.
And for New Hanover County, we have an interdisciplinary team that we meet with from time to time, just as Department of Social Services and Health and Human Services. And we actually have utilized that team, but we also have contracted with a service to help our deaf and hard of hearing applicants through the process.
We also have a state agency that has a branch in New Hanover County, the North Carolina Deaf and Hard of Hearing. It's through the State Department of HHS that is very active and has reached out to us. So as another resource to help us with that.
Great.
And with Will County, I can't say that we heard of any impediments like that either, but we do have a disability resource center that we could tap if that was needed, and our same with our local partners.
Great. Okay. Our next question is from Emma Ishby, I think that is. And it's great to see all the partnerships that were strengthened in the implementation in Milwaukee. Can you say more about how the partnership with the courts was made possible to align with the eviction filings?
Absolutely. Thank you, Emma, for your question. I will say that the courts Mecklenburg County courts came to Mecklenburg County Manager's Office asking what were we doing in this space. And so, whereas we've already had working relationships with them, due to the pandemic and the eviction moratorium, we found that a lot of our partner agencies were working on their own, doing what they have always been doing relative to Mecklenburg County government and the assistance that they provide. So myself with another colleague, we took the time to stand up an eviction prevention community collaborative, and we identified the partners that are already at the courthouse and doing the work. But what we wanted to do is just streamline our process. So we started with identifying those partners that are already in the courthouse, and the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Dispute Resolution Program. They do a lot of mediation between the landlord and the tenant, and trying to come to an amicable agreement, even if it is about paying the past due rent or making some type of an arrangement where the landlord and tenant can say, you know what, let's part ways. Or if there is legal assistance that's needed. And so with this community collaborative, there is one main point of contact where the initial call will come, and then it will be triaged to either our partner Dream Key or Crisis. Dream Key partners will assist those that have been impacted by COVID, and then Crisis assists those that have not. We go on with legal aid if that is needed, Charlotte Center for Legal Advocacy. And being able to do that allows for a quick response. And so there are points of contact within those agencies that are ready to act when there is a call that comes in for the collaborative. I will say that there are flyers that the courthouse mails with those who have court dates that are upcoming. It is for them to call that number. And if the resolve can be made before court, then that court hearing is dropped. But if they do make it to the courthouse and the judges and the magistrates, they are aware of this process. If they are in the process of being able to get funds distributed through them, through Dream Key Partners or Crisis, their case will be continued. The courts do work with the landlords and the tenants. What I have heard is that the tenants are definitely in a good space to be able to know that their rent is going to be paid, but sometimes the landlords frown upon the continuance, even though knowing they are in the process of being able to receive payment. And that concludes my answer.
Thank you. And that helps us with some of the other questions that are on the board. Ms. Jackson?
In New Hanover County, we did have a partnership with the court system, and what we did is that we went in, we met with the clerk of court. We actually will be meeting next week with one of the DAs to further this partnership. And we left flyers in the court. We have someone at the court that actually sits in on the evictions court. And it was important for us to just have those conversations. We are also in the process of having some conversations with legal aid to see about adapting and seeing what they can do with help with that collaboration. And one other thing is that having someone there at the court to actually mediate between that landlord and that tenant has been proven to be good for us. We're in the process of hiring a housing specialist, a housing stability specialist, and that housing stability specialist, that will be mostly their responsibility will be to deal with that actual court, deal with the courts and be that liaison between the courts, the tenant, and the program.
Thank you. Maricela, I missed you on that one.
Oh,
Go ahead, Jim.
You know, I can speak to it briefly. So
Okay.
one of the things, very briefly, one of the things that helped us is we had our own Milwaukee County tax levy funded eviction prevention program prior to this. So the court system was kind of well aware of our work. We've had longstanding relationships already doing eviction prevention. But I think even more than that, we have biweekly meetings with the chief judge. The chief judge actually runs those meetings. And on those meetings is going to be legal aid, legal action, all of our mediation partners. So the court system actually helped us hand in hand build this program. And like I said, the chief judge runs these meetings herself. So that was certainly a huge benefit. And the entire court system is well aware of the process and how this program works.
Thank you. Martha?
And then for Will County, we did fund our local Prairie State Legal Services legal aid through our CDBG CARES dollars to provide staff to have extra hands on deck when it comes to assisting households that might be under eviction. We've also have a different state agency, Illinois Department of Human Services, that just launched a court-based rent assistance program to all of the circuit courts within Illinois, directing that courts provide or direct landlords and renters to a rent assistance program, and providing a particular portal or access point for those dollars. And That just was launched September 15th, so we've yet to see how that works out. And then we are locally talking to our circuit court as well on establishing an eviction diversion program, which would do much of what the panelists talked about today, is just preventing or some sort of an outcome, providing an outcome other than eviction between the landlord and tenant.
Thank you. We know that we have more questions in the chat. But we're not able to get to all of them live. So those questions will get answered. And what we will be doing is putting them on the website. You can go to NACo.org resources and look for the ERA questions and answers. You'll be able to see your questions and the answers to them, and also those questions that have already been asked and answered. Thank you to all of our panelists for being on here today. I do want to remind all of our listeners that we have the survey, Emergency Rental Assistance Program survey, and we're seeking input for that. So ask you all to please log on, give us your background, your information on that. By sharing with each other, we all learn. Just another benefit of being a part of NACo is the sharing of information, learning new things. We thank you all for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.